to you, Stefan.
So, hello everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon, or wherever you are. For me, it's good afternoon. So, my name is Stefan Antonelli. As introduced, I work for Plone since ages, and feel free to contact me in the face-to-face afterwards, or via Twitter or email or whatever you prefer, if you have questions or follow-ups. Exactly. So, what is this talk about? I would try to explain Plone theming from scratch. This is basically how to create a theme for Plone. And since everything is bootstrapped now, that's pretty easy, finally. The previous talk by Peter already showed some of the new stuff, so I will keep this part a little bit short and talk only about the differences or the good things I want to bring out somehow. We built a theme from scratch, so there is no dependency to Barceloneta at all. There is no much dependency because most of the stuff is bootstrap anyway, but in my example, I leave Barceloneta out, so you can have at least a clean package with almost no dependency to any other CSS styling, whatever is in there. We also dropped diazo, so in this example, there is still no diazo needed, and that makes the site a little bit faster as well. Everything is based on Bootstrap. We already have heard that this afternoon. I guess when you follow that talk, you have already seen the one before, so I will not repeat, or I hope I will not repeat everything. We decided to use Bootstrap. It was not kind of a decision, right? It's just one of the major frameworks out there. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows how to use it. And it's, yeah, that's why we said we want to have it. It's one of the most popular. It brings typography, it brings forms, buttons, tables, everything you need for a framework like Plone, and everything you need for a website or for an application or whatever you build on top of Plone or with Plone. So let's create the stuff, basically, start the work. I have to say, Peter showed an example of doing all that, and I made that a little bit shorter. And after that lovely talk about kittens, I only can lose, so please don't expect too much from me. First step is creating an empty package. I use Mr. Bob for that. There is also Plone CLI. Check out the docs for how to doing that. Basically, a one-liner for creating an add-on package. That's done like that in the console, creates the package. You have to answer some questions. I filled that up here. I only showed it because we keep Plone version 5.2.1 for that now, and we switch it later to the core dev build out. So that's just, there is, as far as I know, there is no Bob template for Plone 6 so far. Correct me afterwards or give me a hint if there is already. So defaults are fine, keep 5.2. And after that, I made the first commit so you can follow up the changes. I also made a package. Again, it's not so pink. You can check it out on Collective. Plone Theme Munich is the name. I follow I like the idea of giving Plone themes different location names. So my first one, or the first one was Tokyo. This one is Munich, and Munich should be, it's the same like Barceloneta. It's not full featured, but it supports all the features, and it just makes the stuff a little simpler, or does not support all features that you see in Plone. That's way more easy to see. So Bootstrap, not the framework Bootstrap thingy. Create a VM, install the requirements. It's done so far. After that, you can run a build out, but you don't have to. I recommend to clean up first a little bit the package, or my idea, or I like clean packages with as few files I really need. That's why I remove what's not necessary. I remove all the test stuff, the constraints for 4 and 5. A Bob template package brings a lot of stuff, and I basically delete them. Check the diffs between it's only 5 commits in the repository. Check the differences, what I really deleted or what I changed for that. We have to extend this package a little bit, as said before. It's a core dev build out, and we use the LTS branches from different packages. Peter brought up some configs. They are used in our core dev build out in the PLIP config. You can, in your custom project, you can check out, or you can use that as a dependency, extend your build out configuration, and you get a core dev build out with what you need to test that classic theme stuff, without having the core dev build out, create a new package and use that as so far. That's what we use for the LTS branches, basically. And then run the build out. After that, start the instance. I was too far a little bit. Run the build out. It's basically a core dev build out. There's just one thing more that I want to say. It will take a while, especially when you run it the first time, especially when you don't have all the packages on your system. Give it a while, it will take some time. After that, start the instance. You can start the instance, you don't have to. You get a plain vanilla Plone 6 up and running with that structure. Start it and check it out. If you can see Plone with what we showed in the first talk, then you are right so far. So you can start. Beginning from here, we add our theme structure. So that means there is a Bob template that does everything for you. You can use a theme Bob template and it brings in everything. I prefer to add what I really need. That's why I add the structure manually, and I only create or add the stuff that I really need. This is pretty much copy and paste because I have projects where I already have it in. For this use case, I think this Plone Theme Munich is a good example. We can create a branch for this state of the theme that you see what you only need or what you really need for a theme structure. I guess we do a Bob template for that, but that's not something I want to promise. So the first thing we have to do is add a package JSON. It's in the side root of the package. It's the same in the Barceloneta theme. This is this NPM JavaScript story you don't want to talk about too much. Two things are interesting here. The dependencies to Bootstrap, Alpha 3 in this example. We are on the beta now. I will change that quickly. And more interesting is the scripts section where you basically see what you can type in on your console. So with this package JSON in the root and this dependency, you see the scripts that we can run later. For example, this creating the distribution, CSS JavaScript, and watch, that's what you see in Peter's talk as well, is a watch daemon that runs this machine when you change one single line in a SAS file or in a JavaScript file. We have to put some static files in. There is, it's Plone, it's configure CCML. I guess you know what's happening here. Interesting thing in the manifest file from the theme folder. So it's almost empty. It's only 6 lines here. The interesting thing, rules is empty. So with having no rules defined, Diazo is just doing nothing. That's I love it because it's pretty fast and it's not modifying whatever comes from my main template. So it ships the main template without processing, basically. That's what happens when you leave the rules. Unluckily, there is no switch to turn Diazo off, so something we can maybe discuss later. So what we here see is the actual bundle. Yes, we use the resource registry and we have to register a bundle. What we do here is switch the compile flag to off. We register one CSS file. That is the result of our file system compiled thing from Bootstrap and stuff. So here everything comes together and this registers the stuff in Plone. We will compile that bundle in a minute. That's a few slides later. At least add a theme. That's also a no-brainer. Just copy and paste the stuff. Again, check the package for the details. I'm not showing everything, but it's not much more than I discuss about or that I show. Exactly. So compile. Are there any expectations now? yeah, sorry, wrong note. Compile is, we compile a SAS to CSS. SAS is what comes with Bootstrap. You can extend it by adding your own SAS files. Basically, we import everything from Bootstrap, and that's the compile process. We use NPM, or in my case, Yarn, to compile the stuff. Everything is tied together in the package JSON I already mentioned. For example, the Bootstrap icons are listed there as dependency. We don't have to download or whatever. They just go to the node modules folder and are used there. Compiling means it resolves variables, packs the stuffs, uglify the stuffs, minify the stuff, whatever is defined in your package JSON. Again, check the scripts in the section for seeing what exactly is available and what's going on there. You can configure that file. It's you can extend it for your own checks for I don't know, pre-commit hooks or whatever you want to add there. Yeah, I like the idea of how it's done. One thing I want to mention is the yarn dist command. This is basically to compile the stuff for distribution. This is mentioned in the package JSON. And one last thing is the yarn watcher that we saw on Peter's talk. So next, first startup. Everything is just in place. Everything is done. We have compiled the bundle. I would say let's start Plone. What could go wrong? The question I made when I started it up, is Plone broken now? Are there any expectations? Can we do a poll here? Is there in this window? Can we use that somehow? Let's make a poll what the audience is expecting if everything is broken or so. I don't know. So of course it's broken. It's Plone. This is what it looks like after these steps, and yeah, but there are still good news. It's not everything that is broken. Plone components just work. You saw the navigation, for example, or the breadcrumbs, because they were standard markup. Everything from pattern flip, toolbars, portlets, forms, the stuff is already working. Before I show some screenshots, I want to tweak my changes a little bit. Let's tweak the main template a little bit. You cannot override it with JBot. You have to register it in CCML and add the templates to override the actual main template. Example for that is also in the package. After tweaking the main template a little bit, I got back my column structure, and now I can say theming is fun again. You showed, or you saw that already on Peter's talk. Bootstrap variables for the basic behavior of the theme are there. There you can define fonts, colors, shadows, whatever you like. In the node modules folder, there is a variables file where you can see all Bootstrap's or all of Bootstrap's variables you can touch. I linked the GitHub URL here because then you can access it on the browser quickly. Pretty much stuff, and I only show a few of them. Rounded corners, primary color, font, link decoration. That's in the most projects, the main things you have to change first. So when this is done, half of the theme has the appearance you want to have. Next is templates. So any expectations on that? Add overrides by JBot. That's pretty much simple. We already know that. Copy templates to customize is here the story. So I, for example, copied my custom navigation. I copied in the template from the search gadget to change the markup a little bit. We had that in the Slack chat before. The first thing I always kick out is this button for search in section, which is only useful on big sites. Most of the sites don't need it, and you have to handle that in the theme somehow. Whatever. And you can, of course, add custom views for your story, custom views for listings, for content types, whatever you know from Plone before. With the big upside, it's much easier to use components or styling that is available there. I have to say a word about columns. I don't like them. For this example, I kept them in. I grabbed the main template and added column structure for it. Diazo is not working, so I have to fix that. Maybe we changed that before we release Plone 6. We have to I guess this needs some discussion, but bringing in some column structure to keep it in order by default is not a big change, so maybe we can do that. Anyway, columns I had to fix them at the current state of development. In most cases, I need one column or one column plus a side column with portlets or whatever custom stuff I put in. I moved the portlets into one column, for example. That's an example shown later on. Portlets is the next thing I don't want to talk about. They are in this theme. They are, you can change them, you can add them, they are there, whatever you want to have. Since they are cards, and cards are already styled, they just work out of the box. I just had to add a little margin. That's what I said also before in the Slack chat. You don't need so much CSS to get Plone to a state where it looks, in my opinion, better than Plone 4 or 5 by default was. So let me show you some examples. Plone Theme Munich, and that's the current state, or let me say the state from yesterday evening. Yes, it looks like Plone, and it's not Barceloneta. That's what I have to say. With the changes you saw before and like 5 lines of SAS on the right place, it looks like that. And beginning from here, you can do whatever you want. The theme is basically the same. I don't like some details on Barceloneta, and this enables me to do something different, like the search gadget on the top right, the navigation without drop downs, or whatever you want to change. It's a clean theme, and it supports most of the features with some restrictions. This is the screenshot after adding the basic theme. We have the listing here. It works all out of the box because the markup fits to Bootstrap CSS. Then we have the folder listing, the tabular view. Here you see the tiny Bootstrap icons from the icon resolver as well. So the breadcrumbs looks a little bit different because they're Bootstrap default with some CSS here or some template changes. So no big deal to start styling from here. And this is what I really, in the Tokyo theme we did for proof of concept, the most ugly part was fiddling around for getting all that forms working somehow. With great effort that has been done, thanks for that. I have to cheer some beers or whatever in the next personal sprint. That's what you get with no single line of custom CSS. It's a form that works out of the box. So whatever style you put on top of that, the forms work, and they look, in my opinion, clean and good. And you can still improve them if you like, more paddings or colors or whatever. The backend or the control panel also some work in. Peter showed it already. Imagine that would all be pink or something like that. So, by the way, bringing in a little bit more color, or no, it's not color, it's just a different concept. Plone Theme Tokyo, that was basically the history of doing all of that. The idea was modernizing Plone's classic UI. I don't want the idea of having Plone 6 classic out and it looks and feels and acts the same like Plone 5. So that's why I started that proof of concept. It was during the conference in 2018 in Tokyo. You can see it in the name. And the initial intention was a clean theme based on Barceloneta. Somehow that escalated quickly. Again, everything is Bootstrap. I dropped columns. We have only one main column, which is for a simple application or a simple page or whatever you want to do. You don't want to have columns. You can add columns, of course, inside of your template or whatever you add. The basic theme is without columns. That means also no portlets. They're also gone. And it's fully responsive. I mean, really fully responsive. Here is a screenshot from the state from 5.2. I'm going to bring up a branch that shows that in, or for Plone 6, which means just deleting a lot of stuff. We have already real-world examples that use that theme or that build on top of that. And when they move to Plone 6, we only have to delete a lot of files. So the front page, here we have a login example. The forms are styled with a little bit more padding. This is basically the pre-work or the ideas or the testing with the CSS for a clean Plone 6 site. I like the typography from Bootstrap here. I guess it's only Open Sans font and it looks pretty clean. With the responsive stuff, I really want to prove that because I like the responsive things I did there. They're actually from my phone, and with the sidebar story, that's the next thing, the toolbar thing, it really works. There will be an update for Plone 6. Wait for that when you try it for the CoreDev Wizard. Okay, toolbar. I mentioned the toolbar. Yes, we dropped it. This is a little bit tricky because we need a toolbar. We need to edit something in Plone. We had the idea to bring the editing features and the navigation together somehow, and that's why we created a package called sidebar. Short commercial on that. It's basically a sidebar that pops in. We can also pin it later. There is it's only a few work in, but it worked quite well in that project. We have worked on that concept to bringing the editing features and the navigation together. And yeah, that's basically collective sidebar. Check it out. It's a drop-in replacement, and it's only one template to override, so you don't have to fiddle around with I don't know what the edit bar is like. I like to change it, and it needs a little love for using all that icon story, but basically it worked. That's how it looks like. That's for anonymous users. It includes the navigation and static links and some stuff. And when you log in, you get all the editing features. It's a lie. We missed or we passed out the part for portlets, but it's a small effort to make it like feature complete. The only thing that's not supported is register some stuff that appears in the toolbar, but yeah, I don't want to cover that. Okay, so yeah, that's the responsive view again to show that works. I talked about that already. Here is the GitLab URL for when you want to check it out. It works for 5.2 at the moment, and I quickly bring it to Plone 6, I guess. Maybe I work on that on the weekend during the sprint. Okay, see the stuff a little bit in action. I see my timer and I have like 4 to 5 minutes. I made a little demo how the stuff works together. And I try to explain a little bit what we see. That's the login form. And after logged in, the alerts are also bootstrapped. So they will in Plone 6 look the same. Imagine the same works on a phone, because the sidebar is the idea is to not go wider than a normal phone screen is from the space. You can only scroll up and down with your thumb and it just works. And also the forms are responsive, so they will also work, and the content of course will work anyway. So that's what we see here. Yeah, adding content. Nothing new in that place. I mentioned already the real world project that we have. It's a big site, or the customer has more sites using this package. And we improving sidebar and Tokyo theme with that project, and lots of stuff came back, lots of ideas come back, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion and to the sprint. Give us feedback what we can bring in. Give us also feedback for the Munich theme, because I can add what I need for my custom projects, and I try to make them in a way that it's reusable for others somehow. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. Okay, I guess 5 minutes. My host is getting sweaty now, so I have to stop here. Sorry. Are there any questions? I want to give the word back to the moderator. Are there questions from Slido? I cannot see them on the screen.
Yes, there are questions. I'll read them out, and I'll also send them directly to you in the chat. So you can start looking at them in the chat, but I'll also read them out so that people who may not have the benefit of seeing them can hear them. So the first question, your demo was a file system theme. What about the through the web theming approach? Is there still a viable path for that?
I like the idea of concentrating on one way of doing themes, and the through the web theming story is a little bit tricky. The bundle stuff or bundling stuff from less is not part of, or not anymore part of Plone 6, so this is not supported. You can still upload a zip file, but through the web theming, I really have to pass that questions to people who know more about that. I'm not an expert in that. I decided with Plone 3, they all said you have to do file system development, and beginning from that point, I switched to file system and not try to do something through the web, except really small changes in customizations or what you have in the project.
Okay. I personally, there's some workflows that I use that are based on through the web. So I certainly would value that, but I guess we'll explore it as we continue.
I can recommend the talk after this one. Mike is showing the Yasu examples, and I guess he will also mention the options from the file system or from the through the web story, because it's still possible to add a theme there, and we have a custom CSS, which is inserted in the header. It acts like the custom CSS you know from the past, and that enables you at the end through the web doing some small changes, but it's not, of course, not so powerful like changing bootstrap variables and compile the whole stuff. But watch the talk afterwards. Maybe there are some ideas.
Okay, so we'll leave that for the next talk. The next question, are the tabs on forms break into a second line, which apparently is not good, or are they more responsive using Bootstrap 5?
Mm-hmm. Unluckily, I cannot answer that question. I had no example, or I cannot remember if I saw them breaking somewhere. We are in development at the moment, so if they break, we should fix them before we release Plone 6. As far as I know, we use default Bootstrap component for that, and I can imagine there are responsive classes to add them to get them work. I cannot promise, but I think they are somehow built in a way like that.
Okay, I think
if
those
you know
are all the questions.
Let me know.
Sure, it's something to look into. At this point, we're going to move over to face-to-face. So thank you once again for your presentation, Stefan.